STS as a whole is a scripted narrative podcast. I rarely stray off the rails for any given piece of context, preferring instead to draft a script and make it sound as natural as I can. This segment here, for context, is scripted. I'm reading it to you now, but only as a formality. Between here and the ending spiel, this is going to be totally unscripted. I'm going to shoot from the hip, speak from the heart, let the consciousness stream. And it's probably going to suck. For me, who has to do a heck of a lot more editing to make up for it. But if you're still on board, let's pull from my brainhead and see where everything stands after 25 episodes of Locked in a Vacancy and an entire year of lockdown. And the script ends now. Well, what can I say? It's been a year. A whole year. Sitting here telling these stories, finding out what it's like to live a fairly solitary, lonely, homebound existence. No, sir, I wouldn't recommend it. It's been a learning experience, nonetheless, one that has been thrust upon us, but come on, we live in a society.
We live in a society.
And there's a certain level of responsibility and respect that goes along with that. And the reason we're still here a year later is so many people just can't seem to grasp that. There are more people in this world than just you and yours. If 1 year ago, we had all heeded the advice that we were given, stayed inside, not gone out, adhered to social distancing, and did all this other stuff, the virus would have been nipped in the bud. We would have been done. We would have been through this. It would have been a distant memory of, oh, hey, remember that weird thing that happened in March 2020?
No.
No. No. No. No.
No.
No.
No.
No.
No. No.
Yes. No. I mean, no.
Yeah. That sucked for a few weeks. Is that how it happened? No.
No.
No. No. No. No.
No, of course that's not how it happened. Are you insane? To think that the majority of people out there would think about their neighbor more than themselves? To look at anyone outside of their own existence and think about their well-being? No, of course not. Humans are fickle, selfish creatures. And I think that's been firmly on display more so in the last year than at any other point in human history, at least that we have documentation of. But all things considered, a lot of us have made it through. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have not, but the majority of us are still here. It's been hard, just as it's been hard on everybody else. And what started as a weird sort of side project, Locked in a Vacancy, is a limited series presented by Stories Telling Stories, and so far, this is episode 25. This is the majority of my podcast library at this point. And I also started Locked in a Vacancy as a way to sort of document my journey through lockdown, thinking it wasn't gonna last, maybe a month, maybe two. We'll throw one of these out, maybe once a week, maybe every other week, just to document things, to see how we're going. And it originally involved an unwritten stream of consciousness spiel of me just talking about how I was doing, which is kind of how I'm going back to the well with this and presenting it in the same sense. But as the year went on, as weeks turned to months, I found I had less and less to say. I was saying the same thing over and over again. Just absolute frustration and animosity towards those who were not adhering to the guidelines and therefore making the lockdown experiment, or whatever you want to call it, drag on and on and on for months and months and months, and a year at this point. Over a year. Some people have been doing this longer than I have. But here we are. I don't know how much longer we're going to be doing this. I guess it depends on the overall long-term effectiveness of this vaccine and how many people do decide to get it. But frankly, I need social interaction. And more in the sense that there are people in my life, important people in my life, that I haven't seen for over a year. Friends, family. And it's so hard. And some people can't take that. And that's why they've not followed these rules, because they cannot handle emotionally, physically, whatever, being separated from people like that. I'm not saying I'm special in any regard for being able to do that for this amount of time, for being able to remain in a solitary state. I'm fortunate enough that I at least have a roommate, so I'm not totally alone. But there's people out there that have been totally alone, and it's really hard. It really is. But a year into it, vaccines are coming around. I'm actually getting my shot number 1 of the vaccine in the coming days, so I'm hoping that come the proper spring weather, I will be in a state where I can venture out into the world. I can see some of my friends, I can see some of my family, and I can bring some collaborators onto the channel proper. For now, it's more of the same. And it's going to continue to be more of the same. And in some ways that's okay, and in some ways it's not. But that's what it is. I know people like to joke about, oh, for the greater good, but it really is for the greater good. It really is. And I don't see how being selfish during a global pandemic is something anyone should tolerate. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. In terms of Locked in a Vacancy, though, I've had an amazing chance in this series to collaborate with people and read and recite stories for a global audience that I otherwise would have never read. It's been really insightful in that way, and an unexpected fork and addition to the portfolio that STS presents that I would have otherwise not had is evident by the fact that if you look back on Season 3, it was dominated by Locked in a Vacancy. I all but put the traditional STS series on hold. Whether or not we're still in lockdown, whether or not the pandemic continues to burn on, I think it has established itself as a viable and important series in the overall podcast. I'm also, if you've been able to tell or not, working a bit more on the video side of things. YouTube and the YouTube channel has been a lot more difficult to gain any sort of traction on, and it's a big part of my challenge bringing these episodes out. Is the YouTube side of it takes so much more time than just rolling an episode out for a podcast. It's a surprising amount of time, almost double the amount of start to finish time that it would take to just do the audio podcast. But I have quite a few listeners out there, at least active contributing listeners, who that is their preferred method of consumption for the series. I will continue to do it, I'll continue to put it out there, and I'll continue to try and plug it. And it'd be nice if I could grow more of an audience on YouTube, and maybe by putting video to the series, even though it's going to increase my workload a lot, I'm hoping that'll be worth it. Because that's a lot of time to put into it for 7 or 8 views of video. It's a lot. In any case, I hope this wasn't so much of a big jumbled mess. I was afraid it kind of would be, but I think just sitting here being honest, letting you know how things are going, I think we may have done okay. This is not for the norm for Locked in a Vacancy at all. This is just me celebrating a completely irrelevant marker point. 25, as of course, is my lucky number. This is episode 25 of Locked in a Vacancy, so I wanted to do something a little different, just to sort of draw that mark in the sand, say, hey, we made it this far, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. I've got a whole bunch of other intriguing, interesting stories in the works. I have a couple more collaboration ideas that I would definitely like to pursue. So I will be reaching out to some folks to see about putting something like that in motion. And of course, just growing the series in general, doing more traditional STS episodes, and maybe a couple more writer writes for Season 4. I've got another episode I'm currently working on, and we'll see how that goes. Thank you for being here. Thank you for holding on through the last year. I appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of you who takes time out of your day to either give me a listen or give me a watch, wherever it is you stream or view the show. It's greatly appreciated. And here's looking to a bright future as hopefully this pandemic draws to a close and we are in a position where we're vaccinated, we're safe, we're able to go out, we're able to travel, we're able to see new things, and ergo be able to tell more fascinating stories as we go. I'm Eric, thanks for being here. This has been Locked in a Vacancy, and I'll see you next time. Locked in a Vacancy is produced in collaboration with Stories Telling Stories and STS Media Group, socially isolating itself in Milton House Studios in Milton, Vermont, casting around the globe to your frontal lobe, wherever podcasts are found. Locked in a Vacancy is also streaming on YouTube at Stories Telling Stories. Make sure to give us a review wherever you stream our show. We really appreciate it. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, give us a subscribe on YouTube, and consider supporting us on Patreon for exclusive rewards starting at $1 a month or more. Until next time, stay sane, stay safe, and stay whimsical. Here's to the next 25.